विच्चे। ॐ ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विच्चे। ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विच्चे। ॐ सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। शरणागत दीनार्थ परित्राणपरायणे सर्वस्यार्थरहे देवी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। श्री दुर्गा जगदम्बिका ध्यानं समर्पयामि, आवाहनं समर्पयामि, आसनं समर्पयामि। नमः। पादयो पादयामि नमः। अर्घयो अर्घयामि नमः। ॐ पादयो पादयामि नमः। पंचामृतमयानीतं वयोदधि घृतं मधु शर्करा समायुक्तं स्नानार्थं प्रतिगृहतां गंगाजलमहास्नानं जतुभ्यं। ॐ पंचामृतमहास्नानं जतुभ्यं समर्पयामि। नमः। पंचामृतमयानीतं वयोदधीघृतं मधु शर्करा समायुक्तं स्नानार्थं
जातवेदसे सुनुर्वाम सोममराति यतो निदहाति वेदः सनः पर्षदति दुर्गाणि विश्व नागदेवसिन्धुं दुरितात्यग्निः तामग्निवर्णा तपसा ज्वलन्तीं वैरोचनीं खर्मफलेषुषुतां दुर्गा देवीं शरणमहं प्रपद्ये सुतरसे नमः। अग्ने त्वां पारयानव्यो अस्मान् स्वस्तिभिरिति दुर्गाणि विश्वा पूष्य पृथिवी बहुलान ऊर्वी भवातोकाय तनयाय संयोः विश्वानि नो दुर्गः जातवेदस्सिन्धुन्ननावा दुरितातिपर्षि अग्ने अत्रिवन्मनसा जनानो अस्माकं भोजविता तनूनां प्रतनाजतगं दहमानमुग्रमग्निं भुवे परमासिधस्तात् सन्नः पर्षदति दुर्गाणि विश्व श्यामदेवो अतिदुरितात्यग्निः प्रश्नोषि कमिद्यो अधुरेषु सना च होता नव्यश्च सस्ति स्वाञ्जाग्ने तनुवमित्रयश्चास्मभ्यं च सौभगमायजश्च गोभिर्जुष्टमयजो निषिक्तन्तवेन्द्रविष्णोर्सञ्चरेम नाकस्य पृष्ठमभिसंवसानो वैष्णवीलोकहमादयन्ताम् ॐ कात्यायनाय विद्महे कन्याकुमारी धीमहि तन्नो दुर्गे प्रचोदयात्। हरिणीं सुवर्णरजतस्रजां चन्द्रां हिरण्मयीं लक्ष्मीं जातवेदो महावः तामावः जातवेदो लक्ष्मीमर्पगामिनीं यस्यां हिरण्यं विन्देयं कामश्वं पुरुषानहम् अश्वपूर्वारत्नमध्यां हस्तिनादप्रमोदिनीं श्रियं देवीमुपक्वये शिर्मा देवी जुषतां तां स्तोत्मिकां हिरण्यप्राकारां माद्राज्वलन्तीं दृप्तां तर्पयन्तीं पद्मे स्थितां पद्मवर्णां तामिहोपक्वये श्रियं चन्द्रां प्रभासा यशसा ज्वलन्तीं श्रियं लोके देवशिष्टामुदारां तां पद्मिनीं शरणमहं प्रपद्ये लक्ष्मीर्मे नश्यतां त्वां वृणे आदित्यवर्णे तपसोऽधिजातो वनस्पतिस्तव वृक्षोऽथबिल्वः तस्य फलानि तपसानुदन्तु मायान्तरायाश्च बाह्या लक्ष्मीः उपेतुमं देवतकः कीर्तिश्च मणिना सह प्रादुर्भूतोऽस्मि राष्ट्रेऽस्मिन् कीर्तिमृतं निददातु मे श्रुतिपातामलां देशां लक्ष्मीं नाशयाम्यहम् अभूतिमसर्वद्धं सर्वभागनिर्दये गृहात् गन्धद्वारादुरादर्शा नित्यपुष्टां गरीषिणीम् ईशैकं सर्वभूतानां तामिहोपक्वये श्रियं मनसः कामवाक्कूतिं वाचा सत्यमसीमहि पशूनां रूपमन्नस्य मयि श्रीसहितामिता कर्दमेन प्रजा भूता मयि सम्भव कर्दम श्रियं वासय मे कुले मातरं पद्ममालिनीम् आपः सृजन्तु स्निग्धानि चिक्ली तव स मे गृहे निजदेवी मातरं श्रियं वासय मे कुले आर्द्रा पुष्करिणीं पुष्टिं पिङ्गलां पद्ममालिनीं चन्द्रां हिरण्मयीं लक्ष्मीं जातवेदो मावः आर्द्राय पुष्करिणीं यष्टिं सुवर्णा हेममालिनीं सूर्या हिरण्मयीं लक्ष्मीं जातवेदो मावः सा मावः जातवेदो लक्ष्मीमनपगामिनीं यस्यां हिरण्यं प्रभूतं गावो दासो स्वान् विन्देयं पुरुषाणां यस्यैतो धूत्वा दुर्यादाजमन्वः श्रियः पञ्चदशचास्तिकामः सततं जपेत्
ॐ
सां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽधमृता सम्भुवः समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु तस्य देवाधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तम कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः तदं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ मेधा देवी दृशमाना न आकाशाच्युष्टाचि भद्रा सुमनस्यमाना त्वया दिष्टानुगमाना सुरुक्तान् बृहद्गतिं विदते स्ववीराः त्वया दुष्टा ऋषिर्भवति देवी त्वया ब्रह्मागतक्षीरतत्वया त्वया जुष्टचित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो दृशस्व द्रविणो न मेधे मेधामैन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विना भुवावाधतां पुष्करस्रजात् अप्सरासु चयामेत गन्धर्वेषु चयन्मनः देवी मेधा सरस्वती सा मा मेधा सुरभिर्विष्टा स्वाहा आमा मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगती जगन्या उर्वस्वती पैसा पिन्वमाना सा मा मेधा सुप्रतीका दिशन्तां मयि मेधा मयि प्रजा मयि निस्तेजो ददातु मयि मेधा मयि प्रजा मयि इन्द्रियं ददातु मयि मेधा मयि प्रजा मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो ददातु ॐ हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात् प्रवक्ष्यामि कुञ्जिकास्तोत्रमुत्तमं येन मन्त्रप्रभावेन चण्डीजापशुभो भवेत् न कवचं नार्कलास्तोत्रं ईरसं न रहस्यं न सूक्तं नापि ध्यानं च न ज्ञातो न च वर्चनं कुञ्जिकापाठमात्रेण दुर्गापाठफलं लभेत् अतिगुह्यतरं देवी देवानामपि दुर्लभं गोपनीयं प्रयत्नेन त्वयोर्निरपपार्वती मारणं मोहनं वक्षस्तम्भनोच्चाटनादिकं पाठमात्रेण संसिद्धयेत् कुञ्जिकास्तोत्रमुत्तमम् अथ मन्त्रः ॐ ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विद्महे ॐ गौं हूं क्लीं जुं सः ज्वाले ज्वाले ज्वल ज्वल प्रज्वल ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विद्महे ज्वल हं सं लं शं फट् स्वाहा इति मन्त्रः नमस्ते रुद्ररूपिण्ये नमस्ते मधुमर्दिने नमः केतवहारिण्ये नमस्ते महिषार्दिने नमस्ते शुम्भहान्त्रेष्टानि शुम्भासुरघातिने जागृतं हे महादेवी जपं सिद्धिं कुरुष्य मे ऐङ्कारी चित्तरूपाय ह्रीङ्काली प्रतिपालिका क्लीङ्काली कामरूपिण्ये बीजरूपे नमोऽस्तुते चामुण्डा चण्डिकाती च ऐङ्कारी वरदायिनी विच्छिक्षा भयदा नित्यं नमस्ते मन्त्ररूपिणी धां धीं धूं धुरसती पत्नीं वां ह्रीं ॐ वागलेश्वरी ह्रां क्रीं क्रूं कालिका देवी शां शीं शुं मे शुभं कुरु हुं हुं हुंकाररूपिण्ये जं 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 जम्भनादिने ह्रां ह्रीं ह्रूं भैरवी भद्रे भवानी ते नमो नमः ॐ अं गं शं अं कं शं तं तं फं यं शं वीं दुं ऐं वीं हं शं द्विजाग्रं क्रोते दीप्तं कुरु स्वाहा पां पिं पुं पार्वती पूर्णं खां खीं खुं खेचरी तथा सां सिं सुं सप्तशती दिव्या मतसिद्धिं कुरुष्य मे इदं तु कुञ्जिका स्तोत्रं मन्त्रजागरितहेतवे अभक्तेनैव दातव्यं गोपितं रक्ष पार्वती यस्तु कुञ्जिकया देवी हीना सप्तश्री पठेत् ततस्यै जायते सिद्धिरन्ये रोदनमिता इति श्रीरुद्रयामले गौरीतन्त्रे शिवपार्वती संवारे कुञ्जिकास्तोत्रं सम्पूर्णम् ॐ नमश्चण्डिकाय ॐ नमश्चण्डिकाय बोल साची दरबार की जय की जय माता की जय
श्री महादुर्गा माता की
जय
ये घी
जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। तेरा पावन सुमिरन करके अंतर में सुख भर आता। तेरा पावन सुमिरन करके अंतर में सुख भर आता। रोम रोम में प्रेम तिहारा बन के भक्ति बिकर जाता। जय कल्याणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। मन अंतर में मंत्र बनो तुम जीवन के गुंजारो ना। मन अंतर में मंत्र बनो तुम जीवन के गुंजारो ना। जन्म जन्म के संतापों को तेज से अपने जला दो ना। जय रुद्राणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। देवी दुर्गा माता भवानी महिषासुर संहारिणी। देवी दुर्गा माता भवानी महिषासुर संहारिणी। देवी दुर्गा माता भवानी भक्तन के दुख हरने परम। भक्तन के दुख हरने परम ब्रह्म सुख दायिनी। ब्रह्म सुख दायिनी। देवी दुर्गा माता भवानी धरती पर जब पाप भरा हरने परम भक्तन के दुख हरने परम सुख दायिनी सुख दायिनी देवी दुर्गा माता भवानी देवी दुर्गा माता भवानी देवी दुर्गा माता भवानी।
जय 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 माता सरस्वती जय शुभदायिनी वरदायिनी जय शुभदायिनी वरदायिनी जय 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 माता सरस्वती जय शुभदायिनी वरदायिनी शुभदायिनी वरदायिनी हंसवाहिनी परमासन माता हंसवाहिनी परमासन माता वीणा पुस्तक
बोलो श्री दुर्गा माता की जय। ओम गं गणपतये नमः। ओम गं गणपतये नमः। ओम गं गणपतये नमः। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। अतुलितबलधामं हेमशैलाभदेहं धनुजवनकृशानं ज्ञानिनां मृगगण्यं सकलगुणनिधानं वानराणामधीशं रघुपतिप्रियभक्तं वातजातं नमामि। बोलो पवनपुत्र हनुमान की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। करारविन्दे न पदारविन्दं मुखारविन्दे विनिवेशयन्त्रं वतस्य पत्रस्य पुतेशयानं बालमुकुन्द मनसा स्मरामि। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारी। हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारी। हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव। लोकाभिरामं रणरङ्गधीरं राजीवनेत्रं रघुवंशनाथं कारुण्यरूपं करुणाकरन्तं श्रीरामचन्द्रं मनसा स्मरामि। श्रीराम जय राम जय जय राम। 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 ओम वन्दे देवमुमापतिं सुरगुरुं वन्दे जगत्कारणं वन्दे पन्नगभूषणं मृगधरं वन्दे पशूनां पतिं वन्दे सूर्यशशाङ्कवाहनयनं वन्दे मुकुन्दप्रियं वन्दे भक्तजनाश्रयं च वरदं वन्दे शिवं शङ्करम्। ओम नमः शिवाय। बोलो उमापति महादेव की जय। या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाध्यापः। लक्ष्मीकरोतु कल्याणम् आरोग्यं सुखसम्पद मम शत्रुविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते। दिव्ये महादिव्ये शिवाय सततं नमः। नमः प्रकृत्य भद्राय नियताः प्रणताः स्मतां। रौद्राय नमो नित्याय गौरे धात्रे नमो नमः। ज्योत्स्नाय चिन्दरूपिण्ये सुखाय सततं नमः। कल्याणे प्रणतां वृद्धे सिद्धे कुर्मो नमो नमः। नैऋत्ये भूभृतां लक्ष्मे सर्वाणि ते नमो नमः। दुर्गाय दुर्गपाराय साराय सर्वकारिण्ये ख्याते तथैव कृष्णाय धूम्राय सततं नमः। अतिसौम्यातिरौद्राय नतास्तस्यै नमो नमः। नमो जगत्प्रतिष्ठाय दिव्ये कृत्ये नमो नमः। Everyone together. या देवी सर्वभूतेषु ओ या देवी सर्वभूतेषु विष्णुमायेति शब्दिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु चैतन्येत्यभिधीयते। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु बुद्धिरूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
ओ या देवी सर्वभूतेषु निद्रारूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु क्षुद्धारूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु छायारूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु कृष्णारूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शान्तिरूपेण संस्थिता।
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु जातिरूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु लज्जारूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शान्तिरूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु श्रद्धारूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु कान्तिरूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु लक्ष्मीरूपेण संस्थिता।
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु वृत्तिरूपेण संस्थिता। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु स्मृतिरूपेण संस्थिता
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु दयारूपेण संस्थिता
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु तुष्टिरूपेण संस्थिता
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः
ओ या देवी सर्वभूतेषु मातृरूपेण संस्थिता
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु भ्रान्तिरूपेण संस्थिता
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः
इन्द्रियाणामधिष्ठात्री भूतानां चाकुलेशया भूतेषु सततं तस्यै व्यापिदिव्ये नमो नमः चित्रूपेण या कृत्स्नमेतद्व्याप्य स्थितः जगत् नमस्तस्यै नमस्तस्यै
नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः नमस्तस्यै नमो नमः
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः
ओ नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः
ओ नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो
ओ
नमः
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो
ओ
नमः
नमस्तस्यै नमो 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 नमः प्रेम से बोलो श्री दुर्गा माता की जय। एक बार once there was a king, a raja, who ruled over a prosperous kingdom, and he was known for his wisdom and for his fairness. The people of the kingdom, they loved and they respected him. He was an elderly king at this time. However, there was one thing that the king struggled with. He struggled with his temper. He would often become angry. He would become upset at the people around him and lash out at them. Even his closest advisors, his family members. But one day, a sadhu came to the king. He came to visit the king, and he noticed the king's struggle with his temper. He noticed that the king's attitude has changed. And he offered to teach the king now a very powerful piece of wisdom that could help him control his emotions. The sadhu told the king that the words that we speak, they are like the seeds of a tree. They're like the seeds of a plant, rather. And these seeds, they can grow into something beautiful, like flowers. Or they have the power to grow into something not so nice, like weeds. And he explained to the king that his harsh words were acting as the seeds of something negative. It was causing harm, it was causing pain, it was afflicting those around him. And the sage, what did he tell the king? The sadhu, he told the king that you must try to think before you speak. He explained to the king that he should take a moment to pause, to reflect, to understand what he is about to say before he chose his words and before he uttered those words. In this way, he taught the king how to speak so that he can inspire, so that he can uplift those around him. Of course, the king was touched by the sadhu's words, touched by the lesson that he gave him. He began to practice this, and once again found that his relationships were repaired around him, that his relationships improved. And he was able, of course, then to control his temper. On the occasion of Saraswati Jayanti that has just passed, we think about Saraswati Mata, the goddess of all intellect, and of course, sweet speech. This is a lesson that, we tend to learn a little later on in life, more later on than maybe we should learn it. We learn that it is not what you say, it is how you say it. Maybe, like the king, you tend to learn this lesson the hard way. When the people around you, they tell you that you're speaking to them very harshly. When they react back at you, you understand that you spoke to them very harshly. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And only when these people around us react to us, and maybe they even tell us, that we understand that we have been a little harsh to them. And sometimes the case is that you don't even mean to be rude. Your intent is not there to be harmful to them. But the kindness that you have within your heart, it does not shine through your words sometimes. The kindness that you have within you, you know that you are a good person. Sometimes it doesn't come out in the form that you would like it. How can we ensure that we have this sweet speech? How can we ensure that our speech is madhu? Like Bhagwan Shri Krishna. Guruji always says that Bhagwan Shri Krishna is like the Madhurashtakam. Everything about him is sweet. From the way that he talks to others around him, down to the smile that he has. Everything about Bhagwan Shri Krishna is sweet. How is it that we can possess that? Do we have to become poets? Do we have to learn the art of flowery language? Do we have to eat more sweets? Do we have to eat more sugar? Sometimes I put a little extra honey in Cindy's tea. I put a little extra honey in her tea. She does not take any sugar. But I think to myself, if I put maybe one drop of honey, she'll keep on speaking sweetly to me. Maybe if I put a little bit more sugar, that she'll continue that sweetness, or be even nicer sometimes. But this is not the true way to become sweet or to speak sweetly. What does Bhagwan Shri Krishna tell us to do? Let us look to the Bhagavad Gita, of course. Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva He Nath Narayan Vasudeva He Nath Narayan Vasudeva He Nath Narayan Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare अनुद्वेगकरं वाक्यं सत्यं प्रियहितं च यत् स्वाध्यायाभ्यसनं चैव वाङ्मयं तप उच्यते। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव। हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव। हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव। Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tap uchyate. He says that truthful speech, which is inoffensive to others, pleasing and beneficial, as well as regular recitation of the Vedic scriptures, this is declared the austerity of speech. He says to always speak sweetly to others. Shri Krishna says, he says to ensure that what we are about to say is not offensive. What we are about to say is pleasing to others and will benefit the person that you're speaking to. You know, Guruji always quotes this verse from Manusmriti. Satyam bruyat priyam bruyan na bruyat satyam apriyam priyam cha nanrata bruyat esha dharma sanatana. What does it say? It says, speak the truth in such a way that is priya, that is pleasing to others. In this verse we read, it says, Satyam priya hitam chayat. In the Manusmriti, it says, do not speak the truth in a manner that is injurious to others. And never speak a lie, though it may be pleasant. This is the eternal path of dharma, of righteousness, of morality. That when we look to speak to someone, we either speak sweet things or we do not tell lies. And if we're going to speak the truth, ensure that it'll benefit the person that we're speaking to. Many times, and I think I have this problem most, I don't know if it's a pundit thing, but I talk too much. Cindy will tell you that I tend to overtalk throughout the day. And one of my goals this year is to practice more maunam, more silence. Because if you think about it, the more things that you say, the more control you have to have over your words. The more words that come out of your mouth, the more energy that you have to put into it to ensure that those words are sweet. When that energy can be used to other things, you want to always make sure that the words that you're speaking are sweet. That you're not speaking just to speak. Again, I have this problem. But that you understand that what you're about to say must benefit the person that is next to you, that you're speaking to. And if we're going to speak something, make sure that it is not a lie, because that is just as bad as speaking something that will harm someone. But what Bhagavan Shri Krishna says in this verse is, at the end, is the most important. He says, Vangmayam tap uchyate. He says, if all of these are combined with regular recitation of Vedic scriptures, then this becomes the austerity of speech. He says, if all of this sweet speech that you have is combined, if all of these motives that you have of speaking nicely to others are combined with the action of reading the Vedas or things that come from the Vedas, then this becomes an austerity of speech. You become someone who has control over your tongue. You become someone who truly speaks only good words to others. Why is this so? Because the Vedas, of course, they have good words that purify our speech. In the same way that before we chant our mantras, what do? We chant the mantra, the sound Om before it. It is a popular belief that when we chant Om in front of a mantra, whatever mistakes we make in recitation of that mantra are forgiven. Whatever mistakes we make, whatever mispronunciations we make, it is forgiven. It purifies that mantra as long as the intent is there in your heart. If you chant the word Om before it, in the same way, when we place Vedic scriptures on our tongue, before we speak anything else, or as we are speaking these things throughout our day, it becomes a filter. It becomes a purifying act. In the verse it says, Vangmayam tapa uchyate. And before we get to that, we see that Vangmayam is very similar to something that we know. We say in our pujas, Vangmeyasayastu, Nasurme pranavastu, Akshurme chakshurastu, and so on. This is called Anganyas. Anga means parts. Nyas means to apply. What are we doing? Anganyas means to purify the different parts of our physical body. And so before we do a puja even, we do Vangmeyasayastu. The first thing that we purify is our mouth, starting with our speech. Before we speak another word, before we speak another mantra. And so this Anganyas itself becomes a filter for the rest of the puja that we're about to do. Bhagavan Shri Krishna tells us that using the Vedas or speaking good things that come from our scriptures, this is a way that we're able to filter our speech to ensure that sweetness, madhu, comes from our mouth. But how is it that we do this? How is it that we can control what we say? How is it that we can understand what we're going to say before we say it? Of course, we have to look at what comes before the speech, and that is the mind. Bolo Ram, 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 Bolo Ram. Sitaram, 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 Sitaram,
Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram.
O ekume mand mohavas, कुतल हृदय ज्ञान, उनि प्रभु मोहि बिसारे हो, दीन बंधु भगवान. बोलो राम, बोलो राम, बोलो राम, बोलो राम, बोलो राम, बोलो Bolo Ram, Bolo Ram, Sitaram, 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 Sitaram,
Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram,
Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram, one of the most popular verses of the Ramcharitmanas. Ekame mandamoha bas kutla hridaya gyan puni prabhu mohe besareyo deen bandhu bhagavan. Hanumanji, he meets Prabhu Shri Ram for the first time, and he says to him, in the first place, O Lord, I am dull-witted and deluded, wicked at heart and ignorant. But you, Almighty Lord, have forgotten me as well. Hanumanji speaks to Prabhu Shri Ram and Lakshmana and says that he is deluded, that he is ignorant. He is Gyan Gunasagar Hanumanji. But yet he says to Shri Ram that he does not know anything. You see, this is something that we know. This is a verse that is repeated over and over again. But something so beautiful about this verse is that this is the first time that Hanumanji is meeting Prabhu Shri Ram. And yet he speaks so eloquently. He takes the form of a scholarly person, and his words reflect that. Prabhu Shri Ram understands this, that Hanumanji is very educated. He speaks in such a sophisticated way. And he inquires who he is. What does this tell us? That the first thing Prabhu Shri Ram notices is Hanumanji's speech. How he speaks. What he is saying, more than what he looks like. Instead of understanding that the disguise of Hanumanji was of a scholarly person, of a Brahmin, one who studies the scriptures, Prabhu Shri Ram looks to inquire beyond that. And he says, who are you? Because you speak so sweetly, because you speak so eloquently. So Hanumanji, because of his words, he tells Prabhu Shri Ram that he is a very, very learned person. Not because of what he looked like. And his speech was so thought out. What he said here, it was so beautiful because of his intellect. This is not something that he had thought of saying beforehand. Got into the conversation and then used it. Hanumanji, what does he tell us? He tells us that we must think before we speak, of course. Understand the situation that we're in, just like the old king. And before we react, before we say anything to others, we have to take a moment, think about what we're saying, and then proceed to speak. Hanumanji also tells us that this is not possible without the right intellect. For many of us, it doesn't come naturally. Speaking sweetly does not come as easy as it does for some people. We have to put the effort in, but we can only do so when our mind is ready to do that. We can only do that when we have the buddhi, the right intellect. And they say that the buddhi, the mind, the intellect, it is like a tool or a knife. And you need to keep it in order. Otherwise, that tool gets dull. If you do not keep your mind sharp, it gets dull. Hanumanji teaches us that we must seek to learn in the same way that he approaches Prabhu Shri Ram to inquire about who they are. In the same way that he is Ramadut, the messenger of Prabhu Shri Ram, he takes the message of Prabhu Shri Ram wherever he goes. If we're going to go someplace, make sure that you are taking a message. Because if you're going empty-handed, then what use is that trip? And as we're taking a message, we're using our mind. Hanumanji tells us that our mind must remain sharp through the actions that we do. Seek to learn every single day. And if we learn something every single day, then our mind remains sharp. Remember this, This is a very wise saying. Now, are you listening carefully? Buddhi is your buddy. Buddhi is your buddy. If you keep your intellect sharp, it'll serve you well. If you do not, then of course it will become dull. You won't be able to respond in such a manner as Hanumanji. To conclude today, we learned that it is not what you say, it is how you say it. That we must seek the blessings of Saraswati Mata so that we are blessed with the knowledge and with sweet speech, of course. We must think before we speak. If we take a moment before we act, then our mind, our buddhi, has the chance to kick in, to understand what it is that we should be saying in that moment. And we have to keep this buddhi sharp, this intellect sharp, because if we don't use it, we lose it. If we don't keep it sharp, it becomes dull. We must seek to learn every single day in order to do that. Bolo Shri Durga Mata Ki Jai. Please, everyone, join with me in this beautiful bhajan before we stand for Aarti. माता रानी का ध्यान धरिए, माता रानी का ध्यान धरिए, काम जब भी कोई करिए। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो। माता रानी का ध्यान धरिए, माता रानी का ध्यान धरिए, काम जब भी कोई करिए, काम जब भी कोई करिए। कोई मुश्किल हो पल में टलेगी, हर जगह पे सफलता मिलेगी। कोई मुश्किल हो पल में टलेगी, हर जगह पे सफलता मिलेगी, हर जगह पे सफलता मिलेगी। सच्चे दिल से प्रणाम करिए, सच्चे दिल से प्रणाम करिए, काम जब भी कोई करिए, काम जब भी कोई करिए। ओ जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो बोलो। जय माता दी, जय माता दी, जय जय सत्यम बोलो। ओ जय जय सत्यम बोलो, जय जय सत्यम बोलो। प्रेम से बोलो श्री दुर्गा माता की जय। Just one announcement before we stand for Aarti. Of course, everyone knows that February 18th, Saturday, February 18th, is Mahashivratri. We will be having 5 nights Katha before that for Shiv Puran Katha. On Shivratri day, we start about 6 a.m. or 5 a.m.? 6 a.m. This will be the Ekadash Rudram, 11 Rudram chantings that we will be doing until 11 a.m. And at 11 a.m., we'll be offering 1100 shells to the lingam of charged water that we have charged in the morning time. 1100 shells, so please come on out. We have to have one for each person at least. And we need lots of people in attendance to pour these shells onto the lingam. That'll be taking place at 11 a.m. In the evening, we start our praharas from 6 p.m. all the way into the morning, 6 a.m. It'll be a very, very grand day, so everyone, please come on out on that day. That's February 18th, Saturday, February 18th. If you can make it, please join with us on that auspicious day. Please now let us all stand for Aarti. Om Yani Kani Cha Papani Janamantare Kritani Cha Tani Sarvani Nashyantu Pradakshina Pare Pare.
Om Jai Ambe Gauri Maya Jai Shama Gauri Jai Ambe Gauri Maya Jai Shama Gauri Tumko nish din dhyavat Maya ko nish din dhyavat Hare Brahma Shiv Ji Om Jai Ambe Gauri Maya Jai Shama Gauri Mang Sindur Virajat Tiko Mrig Madhko Maya Tiko Mrig Madhko Ujjwal se donena Ujjwal se donena Chandra badanani ko Om Jai Ambe Gauri Maya Jai Shama Gauri Kanik saman kalevar Rakhambar Raje Maya Rakhambar Raje Rakt Pushp Galmala Rakt Pushp Galmala Kantehar Sage Om Jai Ambe Gauri Maya Jai Shama Gauri Maya Jai Shama Gauri.
Om Shantakaram Bhujagashainam Parmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gaganasadrisam Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmikantam Kamalanayanam Yogibhirdhyanagamyam Vande Vishnu Bhavabhayharam Sarvalokekanatham Sarvamangalamangalye Shive Sarvarthasadhike Sharanye Trayambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Bandhuscha Saka Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. We all bow. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। ओम शांति 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 हरि ओम। बोले उमापति महादेव की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सिया भज रामचंद्र की जय। श्री दुर्गा माता की जय। सत्य सनातन धर्म की जय। सबको जय जय सीताराम। जय सीताराम एवरीवन। Thank you for joining with us. Please have a great night.